Welcome to another edition of our weekly gists. Here we share matters on real estate issues in Nigeria, and today we'll be discussing on a very interesting topic: titles, land titles, and documents. I remain your wonderful host, Mukuru Onome Georgina. So, as I mentioned earlier, today we'll be talking about land titles and documents. Many people do not know that there is a difference between titles and documents. So today we'll be shedding more light on that. What are land titles and what are land documents? Alright, so before we go into full details, I would enjoin you to please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please feel free to comment below. We would love to hear from you. We love your feedbacks. Thank you very much. Alright, so what are land titles? Land titles are documents. Titles are documents that show ownership of the land, while land documents are, of course, papers that shows transactional details of a landed property. Alright, talking about titles, first of all, we have the C of O, also known as Certificate of Occupancy. So the C of O is a document issued by the governor to the owner of the land after purchase, and it is usually valid for 99 years. And thereafter, if another person buys the land, the other person does not need to go and meet the governor for another C of O. There are other details that would show the transactional details that would show change of ownership. Alright, so next on the list we have Excision. You've probably been hearing of government Excision. What does it mean? Probably you've come across places where you'd see things like beware, government land, government property, do not trespass. You already know that those areas are strictly for the government. You are not supposed to go there to purchase a land or do anything on that land. Those places do not have government excision. Government is reserving that land for different purposes and for different uses, probably to develop it later in the future for something. So when you see such things, you do not purchase such lands. That is, so you only purchase lands that have government excision. Alright, types of excision. We have excision and excision in view. Please try as much as possible to stay away from properties that have excision in view, because properties with excision in view, if the government does not grant that property excision in due time, the government can still come back and claim that property, and whoever buys that property has lost that property. So try as much as possible to always look for properties with government excision. Alright, so on the next on land titles, we have Gazette. Gazettes are usually in the form of magazines or publication that states to the public the lands and their owners respectively. Alright, so next we have the survey, also known as survey plan or registered survey. This is a document or a map that shows basically the owners of an expanse of land. For example, you could say this expanse of land is owned by Impact Hub. Say Mr. A owns this expanse of land. So that is that about the survey. And then in the survey we have what is known as the layout. The layout shows specifically who the owners of each plot of the land is in that area. So lastly, we have the deed of assignment. The deed of assignment can actually be referred to as the title and also as a document. The deed of assignment shows the completion of a transaction. Without the deed of assignment, it is assumed both parties started the transaction and were unable to complete it. So the deed of assignment is very compulsory and necessary. It is usually prepared by the lawyer for a fee, maybe like 10 or 8%, I can't remember. Alright, so on land documents now, first we have the purchase receipt. The purchase receipt is very essential. Please do ensure this is documented and it has the signature of the seller. So we have the contract of sales. Contract of sales is actually like the foundation or the beginning of the whole process. It shows the interest of both parties to partake in the transaction. It states specifically Mr. A, for example, Mr. A has decided to buy this land from Mr. B. Contract of sales is basically the foundation or the beginning of the whole thing. Alright, so finally we have the allocation letter. This is a letter that is eventually issued to the buyer, stating that the buyer is no longer owing anything, no outstanding fee, no every other charges have been paid and cleared. And this letter states, so this letter gives specific description of the landed property or the property itself being sold. So I hope you guys have learned a lot today about land titles and documents. Please feel free to comment below, and if you've not subscribed, please subscribe. Alright, see you guys till I come your way again next time. I remain Umuko, and I'm judging at your wonderful post. Bye.